For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. It's Friday. We've survived another week, and there's only a brighter future ahead of us.
Hey, and not only that, we're 1 week closer to getting President Trump sworn back into office and starting to fix a lot of this mess that we're currently living under in this country. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you guys. Drop your comments in the chat on whatever platform you're watching on. We'll do our very best to include you guys as part of the show.
Yeah, and we got a lot to discuss today. A lot's happened in the last 24 hours, just like every 24 hours. I feel like, we get a month's worth of news every day now. But let's start off from the top. So, Gaetz is out, but Pam Bondi's in. Breaking. President Trump nominates former Florida AG and Trump attorney Pam Bondi as next Attorney General of the United States. And honestly, I think she's a pretty good choice. She's worked down there. She's actually worked with Trump before on, I believe it was the first impeachment. She represented him. May have been both, but I know for sure she represented Trump for the first impeachment hearing. And quick reminder, Trump is the reigning impeachment world champion. He does have the most impeachments on record. And I don't know that I don't think that's going to continue through the second term, at least not for the first 2 years, but I guess we'll see what happens there.
Listen, if they're impeaching him on in the second 2 terms or in the first 2 years of this next term, we're in a world of mess, probably bigger than all of us could ever imagine. There's a lot to really unpack with this whole Gaetz situation. And I think that one of the things to really focus on and pay attention on is what's not being said. And this is obviously a signal that the Speaker Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Thune are not going to grant Trump recess appointments. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I could be wrong. Maybe there's some backdoor deals going on here. Either way, I do want to say I've seen a lot of people out here saying, Matt Gaetz quit. I thought he was a fighter. All this. That is garbage. Don't be going down that path of taking that. You don't know the conversations that maybe Matt Gaetz and President Trump have had behind the scenes. Matt Gaetz is one of the best fighters we've ever had in Congress. We were actually fortunate to live at a time where we've been able to witness this and live through some of the things that he's been able to fight back against. And he's 100% loyal to President Trump. So if for some reason, whatever the reason it is, I have no doubt that it's a good reason and that it was to benefit President Trump and the MAGA America First movement. He did not quit. I promise you it was probably very difficult for him to do that. And to me, it says a lot about him that he's willing to put the betterment of this country and the next 2 years under President Trump ahead.
Oh, we lost Derrick. Hopefully he pops back on here in a second. And you're back.
But I was just saying, I think he actually put himself or put the country and President Trump's agenda ahead of his own personal desires, and it says a lot about him.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing that I've seen floated out there is that this was kind of, if you've read Trump's book, this was the big ask that they put Gaetz forward potentially to watch the left and the rhinos just go apoplectic about it, and then they draw him back. One of the things I've seen brought up by a few people is he could still serve as an advisor to Pam Bondi and essentially act as a special counsel and go after whoever, and then he doesn't need Senate approval. Now, I'm not convinced that they won't allow recess appointments, because he and Thune did talk. They did cut some sort of a deal, and maybe it is on the less controversial ones that the left is going to try to block, somebody like RFK Jr., because there are a few Democrats and several Republicans that have said that he'd be a good choice. But that would maybe a difficult one to get through. They may still not have the votes, and something like that, he may allow a recess appointment for something that's going to be close. So we don't know exactly what's at play yet, but the best thing that I like about moving Pam Bondi in has been this. MSNBC contributor panics over Trump nominating Bondi for AG. Dangerous because she's confident. And the point he was trying to make is she knows what she's doing. She's already worked with DeSantis down there in Florida for years, and she's been behind a lot of these lawsuits against Disney, against the leftist school boards, and other entities down in Florida, not to mention having a hand in crafting several pieces of legislation that Florida's moved forward with. So she's somebody that knows what she's doing. She knows how to get things done. She has a proven track record. She's very loyal to President Trump, and she has that pedigree that they all want that they pretend Matt Gaetz does not have.
It's really interesting, for Trump being such a sexist and misogynist, he is putting a lot of women into these powerful positions. And so I agree. I like the choice overall. I don't know a whole lot about her other than kind of the things you just touched on. One thing that is a little bit of concern of mine, I'm kind of saying this jokingly, but I'm kind of serious, is that Lindsey Graham was cheering on the pick of Pam Bondi. And instantly I was like pumped. I was super excited. I saw Lindsey Graham tweet that this is a great choice. I pumped the brakes. I was like, all right, I need to do some research on this lady. Then after doing some research, I was back to being excited again. So, I think, and there's a lot of people I think felt the same way as I did. I think this is a situation where Lindsey Graham is actually cheering on the right person, and he's doing it probably holding his nose doing it because they got rid of Matt Gaetz, and he's probably just happy it's anybody but Matt Gaetz right now. So I think it's a good choice from what we've seen, and I think that she's going to be a bulldog, and she's going to get in there and make some serious changes and fight for the conservative America First agenda.
Yeah, let's remember, too, that after Lindsey Graham's buddy John McCain assumed room temperature, when he got his software update there for a little while, he was on top of Trump's agenda. He was very pro-Trump. He did some good things there for a while. So it kind of depends what software Lindsey Graham is running for the day, whether he's an ally or an enemy. I mean, I think overall he's a deep state stooge, but he does sometimes back Trump's agenda and the conservative movement when it seems to suit him, either on issues that he doesn't necessarily align with the deep state on, or, I guess probably just matters of convenience sometimes. It's Lindsey Graham. I don't exactly like him. I've obviously made fun of him plenty of times. I think he's more of a useless tool than not, but I also think to a certain extent with somebody like Pam Bondi, he also sees the potential here that she is a just massive weapon that can be used to hammer the left's agenda into pieces.
Not only that, I think you had to look at this. So under Harris, had she had won, a lot of these big appointments for these big positions would be coming from the state of California, and they'd be attempting to make America California. We're seeing a lot of these big appointments coming from the state of Florida. We got the president, the attorney general, and many others. I can't remember all of them. There's a bunch of them coming out of Florida. And as a conservative, look right now, do you want to make America Florida, or do you want to make America California? And so as far as I'm concerned, we are winning right now on these choices because I think that they've done fantastic work down in Florida over the last little bit. And that's where it really become one of the safe havens for conservatives to flock to. And you got to remember, it's hard to remember, but it was really just a few short years ago that Florida was a swing state. And a lot of those people, of course, a lot of people moved there, but a lot of it was these conservative people getting in these positions and giving the old residents of Florida, the ones who've been there, a taste of freedom. And when people, it's been proven, when people get a taste of freedom and individual liberty, they don't want to go back to socialism. And so I think that's a big part of this as well. So we're making America Florida right now, which I think is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. And personally, I'm kind of glad, not that I think Ken Paxton or Andrew Bailey would do a poor job in this role, but I think it's more important to leave them in the states to continue to fight back and we want to have more than one attack vector. So having somebody strong in as the country's AG is extremely important, but having these state level AGs that are also willing to fight, that are willing to put these lawsuits forward against the left and to fight back against larger entities like this lawsuit that they're leading right now against Act Blue. Like, that's extremely important. I don't want to take away from that. We don't have enough state level AGs actually fighting back. So keeping those people where they are so they continue to strong arm the left whenever possible and hopefully encourage some other AGs to step forward. I've heard some good things about a few people that just won their elections in various states, but we'll have to see what happened. But if we can actually have a coalition of states also fighting the left, have a two-front or a multi-front war, that is ideal.
Absolutely. I want to give a quick shout out to Dan Dreyer in the Rumble chat and then JD over here in the Twitter chat. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us. And you're correct. You're exactly correct. And plus, people got to remember, some of these guys might not want to go to DC. I mean, Ken Paxton's in Texas. I mean, he's from there. It's a long ways away from DC. He might not want to do that. He might want to continue the battles he's already picked and he's fighting right now. To your point, he might know that the person they're going to replace him with would be an absolute turd and would not bring anything to the table in terms of this movement. So, just because we want somebody to be in that position doesn't mean, number one, it'd be the best person, because of, like you said, the opportunity cost of giving them up in another state, and they might not want it. They might want to stay in Texas or Missouri or wherever they're at. And so the good news is, as on the conservative side, and I don't think you could even say this maybe even 5 or 6 years ago, definitely not 8 or 9 years ago, we've got an extremely deep bench of very good, qualified people in a lot of these positions right now. And I think that as the tyranny has ramped up from the left and the federal government in general, part of that is also part of the Uniparty, the rhinos. But as the tyranny has ramped up, I think that you're starting to see American patriots in some of these elected offices starting to rise up as well. And the American people are responding by, continuing to promote those people into these positions. And so I think what we're witnessing right now is pretty fascinating to watch as America is starting to reassemble itself in a way and to fight back against the tyranny that we find ourselves living under.
Yeah, agreed. And you brought up a good point, too, about who their replacements could be, because, let's not forget, Texas's legislature, unfortunately, has a lot of rhinos in it, and Abbott is no DeSantis. He's reliable on certain issues, but he flexes to the will of the Uniparty a lot, too. And the legislature in Missouri is also extremely corrupt. They're currently right now trying to strip power from a lot of these America First upstarts. They already tried to pull some shenanigans with the state party and pull people out of different positions of power illegally. Before the last election cycle, they wanted to remove electors and remove other people that were associated with the Board of Elections and other things. So we need to keep an eye on them. And then those two states too need some massive improvements for who they have representing them at the state level. Well, MSNBC is panicking for other reasons today besides just Pam Bondi. MSNBC staffers in panic as NBC parent Comcast plans to spin off channel and possibly change its name. And if they spin off the channel, not only would that they'd be on their own, they'd be up for sale, but they would also potentially or probably lose access to a lot of the NBC reporters they utilize on MSNBC right now, that they pretend give them credibility.
Well, that would be awesome. I'd love to see that happen. I want to give a quick shout out over here on True Social to Patriot USA, Blake Austin, River Guy, and Got Jesus. Thank you guys for tuning in over on True Social and hanging out with us today. I think it's awesome. I'd love to see what they could potentially rename this channel. Hopefully they give it the proper name, like MSNDC or DNC. I'm
DNC.
Sorry. That's exactly what it is at the end of the day. These people, they deserve to be bankrupt with everything that they've done, the corruption. And the ratings have just plummeted down to nothing at this point. I think before I don't think it was really profitable, but it was okay. Like they were willing to eat the cost of that to push out their propaganda. But I think it's became so unprofitable that it's not worth it for them to continue doing that. So imagine that these people might have to get real jobs, and they might have to stop pushing government propaganda, because that's exactly what that station is nothing but government propaganda.
Yeah, well, it isn't just them. CNN's also crashing and burning right now. Rumor has it they're going to be sold off as well. But MSNBC, allegedly there is Jack Posobiec has put together a group of buyers and may buy out MSNBC. One thing I've heard floated around, I'm sure this is a joke, but to buy out MSNBC and then just put Alex Jones in a little box on the side of the screen on his own throughout the day, and just have him respond and debunk their propaganda live on air all day long, every day. Oh, that would be glorious.
Awesome. It would be amazing if he did that. Absolutely. I would love to see that happen. Hopefully somebody can buy it. It would be nice to see somebody. What would be fascinating to watch is if a conservative did buy that and started, turning that into more of a conservative media outlet, they would treat them instantly. That MSNBC would go from, even if they kept the same name, it would go from being this glorified place to getting dropped from most of the carriers. It would be like OAN. They would kick it off the air as much as they possibly could, because they don't want allow them to broadcast their opinions or the news and the facts on there. So a quick shout out to Quick Fix 79 in the Rumble chat. He says that he hopes Gaetz takes over for Rubio's spot and then tries to make a Senate leader change like he did in the House. And that would be epic to see that. And it would be glorious to see that happen.
Dream come true. I lost my train of thought. The freak out in the media isn't just MSNBC and CNN. It's across the board. We had this happen yesterday. CBS sets up fake unofficial pool and creates firestorm after claiming 2 ambulances spotted leaving Mar-a-Lago. Trump camp responds with fire. So for those of you guys that don't know, there's no official press pool right now for Trump, but there's a CBS producer who wants to pretend to be relevant. And, they're searching for relevancy right now. So he's created a fake press pool. And yesterday they saw 2 ambulances pull up to Mar-a-Lago. Immediately tweets out that he thinks something might have happened to President Trump, that he had a heart attack or he broke his leg or whatever. All kinds of fantasies were flying around on blue skies. They were all hoping for the demise of Trump or the Trump administration. But anyway, it was nothing. There's always ambulances that move with the presidential motorcade. This particular motorcade wasn't even for President Trump. It was for J.D. Vance. I believe they were taking him to the airport, or he was headed to the airport to fly out somewhere on Trump Force One. But regardless, this caused a giant freak out yesterday around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with fake stories, again, fake news getting reported that something had happened to President Trump.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to Spencer in the Twitter chat. And that's exactly what it came down to, is CBS is desperate for some sort of credibility right now, wanting to get their clicks and their follows and relevancy, because they know that they are already irrelevant and becoming even more irrelevant by the day. Shame on them for doing that, trying to cause some sort of panic and just as a way to get their name out there a little bit more. I mean, goodness gracious, you've been around for 100 years. You shouldn't have to do those sorts of things. I miss the time when journalists actually had integrity and actually fact check things before they released it, and refused to use unnamed sources just to start a rumor of whatever it is that they wanted to say. But that's what we're seeing here. And it caused a firestorm on social media until the reports came out that it was just a thing. And then CBS quickly became another laughing stock, as they are duly, I guess, referred to as at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that you mentioned unnamed sources. That's the thing. They used to want 3 named sources per article, and you wouldn't use an unnamed source unless either you had to or you'd verified who they were, and they were going to, come out publicly at some point if you had a real whistleblower or whatever. Yep. But those rules are all out the window. They'll do whatever they can, publish whatever story, make up sources, make up whatever, as we saw through the first 4 years of President Trump. They'll use whatever they can just to get a false story out and false narrative, because that's what they think matters more. And now they're paying the consequences for it, as we're seeing this rating collapse across the board for leftist networks, while Fox and independent journalists are gaining audience. They're disappearing. I heard one other thing with this particular producer at CBS, that he's especially upset that Trump is utilizing the alternative media so much, that his campaign, he went to Joe Rogan, to Aiden Ross, and to other, major podcasters to get the message out and bypass the media. They're really upset. They see that that's draining their power and diminishing their reach, as more and more people see them for what they are, just a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party and the deep state.
That shows you just how out of touch with reality they really are, though. I mean, why in the world would Trump want to continue doing interviews with them, considering the way that they treat him every single time, the way that they all ganged up on him in the debate, the way that it was obviously hated this man? Why would he prop them up in any way? And I also saw reports that the Trump administration was going to give podcasters and independent journalists press passes to the White House press briefings. So there are going to be some of those people in the actual audience. And not only that, I hope they take it a step further. I hope they put CNN and MSNBC, I hope they make them sit in the very back. If they're even going to be in the room, they need to be in the very back behind all these streamers and independent journalists. And Peter Doocy deserves a front row seat for sure. Yeah. After everything he's done, he deserves a front row seat. But other than that, the rest of them need to be in behind the new people that are coming in, and just to send a message even further.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, rumor has it they're going to give a War Room, Steve Bannon's War Room, a press correspondent, and there may be a few more of those coming out for like Right Side Broadcasting and a few other organizations that have been very loyal to Trump, that have reported from the rallies and have strove to get the message out to the people for the last 10 years basically at this point. So that behavior does need to get rewarded, and America will be better off for it if we're getting relevant questions instead of a bunch of gotchas and a bunch of just fictitious garbage that goes into creating the narrative that the deep state and the uniparty want to put forth. Guys, we got to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with even more.
Hey folks, it's your buddy John Rich here, and co-founder of Old Glory Bank. Let me ask you a question. Why would you trust your banking with people that hate you? Well, you shouldn't. We're building a freedom economy, and now we have a pro-America bank. It's called Old Glory Bank. Check it out at oldglorybank.com and open yourself an account today.
Old Glory Bank is a full-service, FDIC-insured online bank with business and consumer banking and customers in all 50 states. It takes just 8 minutes to open an account at oldglorybank.com.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
If I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's filling up more energy, more get up and go. And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Thank you for staying with us, and you can support Patriot TV so they can keep bringing you programs like ours by supporting our sponsors. If you're still banking at any one of these big monster mega banks that hate you and debank and deplatform people for their political views or for Twitter posts or whatever, we've got to stop supporting the enemy and get with companies that support our values and support a conservative way of life here in America, a conservative agenda. And then I just got some Cardio Miracle samples. I'm going to try those over the weekend and then report back to you guys with my thoughts on Monday. But that's another way that you can support Patriot TV, support programs like ours. Go to the website, go to our program, go down, and that way, and then when you make your purchase, that way we'll get credit for it, and it helps us, gives us the ability to keep bringing you the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Let's go ahead and pull our next story here. Musk and Ramaswamy call for 5-day in-office work weeks for federal employees. As you probably heard us say over and over again right now, but about approximately 80% of DC federal government employees are still staying home from work. They're still working from home. Their office space is sitting empty. Right now, the federal government is paying for literally billions of square feet of office space right now that's going unutilized. We're still paying the power bill, we're still heating the building, but there's little to no one working in the offices. And this is something from my background in staffing. As more and more companies were allowing employees to work from home, their productivity was dropping off. And that's why a lot of them ended it as soon as they could and brought people back. Now, there are some others that still do work from home or remote work. And in certain situations, that definitely makes sense. It is something that was probably underutilized before. But with these federal employees, people that we're paying to work on our dime, I want every one of them that can be in an office with somebody looking over them, making sure they're working. I want every one of them there that possibly can be.
Well, quick shout out to Backwoods Paul in the Rumble chat. Appreciate you, man, for tuning in. And here's the thing. So I think to your point of us leasing these buildings, I was reading that roughly they're about 6% full. These buildings are on a regular basis. So it's 94% empty on these buildings. I would love to know who owns the building and is getting the lease payments for buildings that are not being used. It's just another way that they're laundering money right now. So I agree with you. These people need to be coming back into work. But here's the thing. I'm open to having this conversation. If they're going to work from home or at least part-time or whatever, if they're wanting to allow people to live in Nebraska instead of living in DC, so you can kind of spread this out a little bit. And then then let's get rid of these leases that we have on these buildings and right now we're doing both. We're paying for these big, massive buildings and nobody's coming in. So if we're going to go down this route of the future, and I think I'm with you on the old school way of this, but if Elon and Vivek, I trust and Trump, I trust their business mindset of this. If they think it would be better to at least try spreading this stuff out all over the country, I would be open to having that conversation. But it starts with getting rid of these buildings and stop paying for all this massive expense that's not being used. It's just more government waste that's taking place in our country right now. But imagine the people who are freaking out right now of how dare you make me have to come into work to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to sit there and do nothing when I can sit at home and do nothing. That's their mindset right now, because they don't do much of anything. Most of these government employees, of course, there's a lot of them who do work, but it's so bloated that there's very little work spread around between all of them. There's a few people, I'm sure, who's doing most of the work, and the rest of them are just existing and pushing liberal propaganda throughout the day on our dime.
I'm tired of paying them to sit at home in their pajamas and play with their cats while they pretend to work. So something needs to be done. And as far as these buildings go, so if any of them are, I wonder, the federal government should be able to just end the leases on most of them, any of them that they don't own. But if it is something that they own, I wonder if we could lease that to another company or just sell it. Yeah. Or if it is, a historic building, something that we do want to hang on to, even if it's not being utilized right this second, maybe we should retool and move in employees that we do need, or again, lease it out, something if it's something we don't want to sell. But otherwise, we need to get assets off the books for the federal government. We need to pay down the debt. We need to get the spending under control. And that should be priority one. The way we're going to do that is by eliminating waste like this. To hear that you said 96% of these buildings or spaces are unfilled right now, and we're still paying for them, that's just absolutely insane. So that's a huge savings right there.
Well, not only that, think about all the office furniture in there, the workstations and everything that's being furnished for all this as well, to just sit there and go, and we're paying somebody to clean all these massive buildings and the upkeep on it, the maintenance. And it's absolutely mind blowing when you really start breaking down the cost on that. I want to give a quick shout out to Deanna over here in the Rumble chat. Deanna says Kash Patel for FBI director and Dan Bongino for Secret Service director. And I agree with both of those choices, and I'm fingers crossed that we make it happen. But shout out to you and thanks for tuning in.
Well, she must be reading our minds right now, because here we go. I have never even given it a thought. Breaking: President Trump weighs in on Mike Rogers leading the FBI following uproar. Yeah, and this is something that's been on the back of my mind. You and I talked about it several times off air. I don't want this guy anywhere near the FBI. I want Kash Patel there. So this was a big question. A lot of people have been floating the idea, and people even said, oh, this is what President Trump was going to do, blah, blah, blah. And that they even had an article up this morning on Gateway Pundit still saying that this guy would be, Rogers be FBI director, Kash Patel would be deputy director, blah, blah, blah. But I want Kash Patel in charge. He's got the vision. He's a real fighter. If you guys haven't read Government Gangsters, you need to. It's an excellent book where he lays out a lot of the plan, what needs to be done with these administrative agencies, with the DOJ and everybody else to clean up the problem, end the corruption, and force people to face the consequences for their actions.
Well, number one, I support Kash as well, but even if it's not Kash, we definitely don't want Mike Rogers in charge of the FBI. It's absolutely unbelievable that that name was being floated around. I'm glad that not only did Trump shut it down, but he said, I've never even given it a thought. So he was never even in the running, thank goodness. I couldn't believe some of these people who were, out here pushing Mike Rogers to be in charge of the FBI. I have full faith that Kash Patel is going to be in charge of the FBI. And as someone who's been, targeted by the weaponized FBI and DOJ, I am excited to have Kash Patel in that position and hopefully bring in some of these whistleblowers and everything as well to sit down and actually clean up a lot of this corruption that's going on. And then after they clean up a lot of this mess and get rid of some of these unconstitutional regulatory things that's within there that's basically created law unconstitutionally, find all that, get rid of it, and then just completely abolish and shut down the FBI. We don't need the FBI. It's unconstitutional. It's unnecessary. It's been weaponized against the American people. Return that power back to the states. We can keep the U.S. Marshals, things like that, and allow them to. But even then, or if we're going to have the FBI, it needs to be very, very small compared to what it is now. And they should only be getting involved when states reach out and say, hey, like my little town here in West Virginia or something. It's like, we got some issues that we can't afford to do. We don't have the technology to do this. Can you help us out? And then they could come in and collaborate. But that should only be when the local police is unable to handle it on their own and they need additional resources. That's when the FBI should step in, not this weaponized FBI that's coming around and going to small towns and rounding people up on ridiculous charges.
Yeah, bingo. They either need to be severely limited in scope or just completely disbanded and the few useful components within the FBI moved out to other agencies' control. Because obviously there are limited areas where we do need, or it is a good idea to have some level of federal law enforcement for criminals that continually cross state lines, for large organized crime organizations, things like that. It is a good idea to have something at the federal level, even if it's just to coordinate. But I think they should be subservient to the local police everywhere. That they want to go in and kick in a door, they have to partner with local law enforcement, and maybe we need to adjust some laws there so that when necessary, when they have proper warrants and paperwork and everything else, and it is a real criminal, that local law enforcement will need to comply with them in certain circumstances. There may be other things that need to change, but regardless, the organization now has become weaponized against the American people and against people, politicians that are on the right, and we cannot allow that to continue going forward. I think Kash Patel, he's somebody that's courageous, he's unapologetic, and you watch these interviews that he's done, even with leftists, he'll lay it out like it is. He's not afraid to fight back, and he'll get the job done regardless, at least in my opinion.
I agree. It's just funny that when you really think about how big that agency became and how much waste there really was. You had a group of agents sitting around one day, bored, had nothing to do, getting paid for it, and they're like trying to figure out what to do. And it's like, hey, let's go to the school board meeting and we'll sit in the parking lot and we'll write down license plate numbers of all the parents who are coming out speaking out against tyranny, the medical tyranny under COVID, or speaking out against the transgender bathrooms, and then we can harass them. That really happened, for the record, for those of you who might not know that. But if our FBI has enough time to do that, then I'm sorry, but there are way too many FBI agents, because they should be focused on way, way more important issues than that. And so that tells me that we have way too many agents who are sitting around. It's like, I remember working at, McDonald's or whatever when I was young. Not a Kamala Harris story. I really did work at McDonald's. And you're standing there and there's not a lot going on. And the manager's like, all right, well, you can sweep. They're just trying to find something for you to do. And so you're doing this busy work, doing stuff. Well, that's where we're at with the FBI. They're like, well, you can't just sit here all day. We got to find something for you to do. Go harass those parents at the school board meeting. And so we got to get rid of this agency, or at least cut it to the bone and really strip them of most of the powers that they have.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough here over at Patriot TV to have Steve Friend on the network. If you guys haven't watched True Blue before, you should, because some of the days where he goes through just the level, how often the FBI gets involved in what is a local police matter, takes the case from them, slaps their name on it, doesn't do anything except file a report, stretch it out over several years so they can have a fake terrorist investigation or take credit for something local law enforcement's done. We see this happen over and over and over again, but it helps them to create the narrative that they want, that they're the premier law enforcement agency of the United States. But in reality, they're just stealing the work others have done. They're setting up people that are mentally incompetent to take the fall for fake crimes they had no ability to carry out. And this is not accomplishing anything that's good. With a lot of these people, especially when you've heard some of these stories where they've been on this person since they were 16 years old, they could have stepped in, got this person the mental health help that they needed, or done something to prevent it instead of encouraging them along, playing into their delusions and their fantasies, and then setting them up to take the fall for a crime they otherwise did not have the capability to commit.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what's going on. I highly recommend people watch that show as well. Steve is a true patriot who blew the whistle and basically was one of those people in that position where they're just trying to find work for him to do and wanted him to go do things that he knows was unconstitutional and was wrong to do that to the American people, and that's not what he signed up for. And as opposed to being one of those people of, I was just doing my job and following orders, he stepped up and spoke out against it and lost his job and career for doing so. And now he talks about all the corruption and the waste and all that stuff inside the FBI. So hopefully, Cash will bring people like him in to discuss these issues and help fix what needs to happen, because he's obviously already stood up to them once and put him in a position, alongside Cash, even if it's just an advisory role of sitting down and having these conversations to clean this up. I'm telling you, I don't think people, even all of us who think we know, including Trump, I don't think any of us truly know just how big and wasteful and just all the things that's going on inside these three unconstitutional three-letter agencies. The goal for President Trump should be to clean up the regulatory things that they had created along the way unconstitutionally, and then close these agencies down. And it's going to be a massive undertaking, but that needs to be the goal that we're working towards over the next 4 years.
Yeah, bingo. Let's go ahead and pull this next story here. AOC says it endangers girls of all kinds to prohibit men from women's bathrooms. I don't know what kind of crack she's smoking this week, but she really can't help herself. Actually, I'm just going to play this for you guys. You can hear it straight from the horse's mouth, pun intended.
It's disgusting, and everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
Thank you. It's gross.
Yeah, so I guess anybody that wants to pretend to be a woman is a woman in AOC's eyes.
What I didn't understand out of the whole thing that she's gibbering around about there is girls of all kinds. I'm sorry, there is one kind of girl. What do you mean all? She didn't even say both kinds. Like, what does she mean when she says all kinds? How many kinds of women does she think that there are, or girls does she think that there are? It's unbelievable. And she's the one that's out here attempting to fundraise. There's no way that she would want to go climb in a ring and fight that dude pretending to be a woman, because she would say, no, he's got an advantage. I'm not fighting him, like if they got into an argument. So she doesn't even believe what she's actually saying herself. She is the one that's attempting to fundraise off of this opportunity. And it's really despicable that she is doing this, but I'm glad that she's saying it out loud, because I do think she has aspirations to run for president one day or something like that. And we will be able to use this and show the American people her true colors as she's trying to gaslight them in whatever year that ends up being.
Oh, exactly. Well, I kind of wonder, too, if this isn't just part of her kind of retooling after the election, because she did, after they got crushed, she did kind of walk back some things and, told some people to chill. But now she's kind of making those gestures towards the blue-haired moonbet side of her constituency that funds her campaigns, because I'm sure she needs to refill the coffers. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think she's just as crazy as she always was. And what's all like jumping around and stuff she does when she talks too? That looks just as crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shout out to Jules and Marble over here in the Twitter chat. Appreciate you guys. And then Quick Fix talking about this AOC stuff, and the Rumble chat says you can't argue with people that don't live in reality, and that is the absolute truth. These people do not live in reality. I mean, honestly, we should all do ourselves a favor. And anytime a liberal starts to argue with us about something, just say, how many genders are there? And if they say more than two, then we're wasting our time and our oxygen and our breath to even try to have a conversation with these mouth breathers. That we should start giving ourselves and holding ourselves a little bit more accountable on a lot of these things, and draw a litmus test. And if you can't agree that there's two genders, then I'm not discussing anything with you any further. It's not worth my time to do so.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't accept basic truths, then your opinions are irrelevant, because we already know you're Looney Tunes. Guys, we have to take another quick break. Hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back with even more.
Now we have it. Kingdom Crunch.
It's important to start breakfast off with a power-packed punch. You want a complete amino acid score, good protein. If you turn the label over and look at the back of the box, there is no added sugars in either one of these flavors, either peanut butter or acai bowl.
Peanut butter has 11 grams of high-quality protein. Acai bowl has 8. Peanut butter has 11 grams of carbohydrate, acai bowl 12, and both of them have a good solid fat content at 6 grams. Very filling, very healthy.
You will be fueling yourself with high quality fuel, starting off the day right. You can even use Kingdom Crunch as a snack in the middle of the day if you just have a craving and you want to eat something that is good for you, it has a crunch, and doesn't have a lot of calories.
There you go. Diabetic friendly, keto friendly, paleo friendly, Kingdom Crunch, and
child friendly.
Hey, Patriot TV fans, feel like there's nothing on the radio for like-minded, intelligent people like yourself? Well, great news. Now you can stream Patriot TV on TuneIn during your drive to or from work. Whether you're stuck in traffic or cruising down the highway, you can catch every conversation from your favorite show hosts right in your car. No more mindless jibber-jabber. Tune in 24/7 on the road, at the gym, or wherever you are. Download the free TuneIn app now on Apple, Android, or your computer and never miss a beat. Patriot TV, now on TuneIn.
And guys, remember, you can help support our program and all the programs on Patriot TV by supporting our sponsors. And again, a good way to do that, we want to support the goal of making America healthy again. You can do that with Kingdom Crunch. Go pick some up today. And again, you can go through the menu on patriot.tv, select our program, the Insurrection, and that way we'll also it'll help us by giving us some credit for sending you their way. Had another interesting moment with Joe Rogan the other day. He had Evan Hafer on from Black Rifle Coffee Company. I think he was the founder or co-founder, I don't remember which, but a former Green Beret. Trump can turn loose Delta Force on the cartels. So Hafer went through exactly how this could work. That basically we would send in small teams, small units to go hit select segments of the cartel, individuals, loudmouths, people that are causing problems, people that are making direct threats, and otherwise utilize drones to just wipe them off the map. You know, these guys aren't like a formal military, and we could do a lot of damage very fast. And again, that's who's responsible for this wave of humans being brought up to the border, not to mention all the drugs, the fentanyl, and everything else that's made its way into the United States. And it's time for righteous retribution against these people. They're responsible for hundreds of thousands of American deaths every year, and they're responsible for the 20 to 30 million people that have illegally invaded our country since the Biden regime took office.
I'll be honest with you. I think that's a good start. I'm going to go a lot more what I guess some people would call extreme than others, but I think that would be a great start doing that, turning them loose out here on these cartels and everything else. I would love to see us when we build the wall, create some sort of small section. Build the wall a little bit, a couple hundred yards or whatever back from the border, and have that known as no man's land. Anybody comes in there is going to be considered an enemy combatant, and you're going to be faced with military force. That's what I want to see happen. I'm sick and tired of all this. It's time to stop with all the games and the patty cake politics. It's time to secure a border. Anybody who says what I just said is extreme, I want you to go watch the video of the police cam footage of Lake and Riley's family showing up on the scene and finding out that their little girl had been murdered. If you think what I just said is extreme in terms of using military to protect our border at any cost, then go watch that video, go talk to her family, and then come back and tell me what I just said is extreme. Because the only extreme position on this is allowing this border to be like Swiss cheese and allow these people to come in, let alone what the Biden-Harris regime has done, which was actually aid and abet and fly these people across the border and open it up to all of them. And I don't believe in just halfway securing it. We need to secure it with a wall. And then we need to stick the military over there. We got National Guard who has to volunteer or spend 1 weekend a month. And then we got people who are training. Let that be a training zone. Send them down there and use all that. Won't cost anything extra, and make it just a massive military presence and make it known. And you make a couple examples out of a couple of these bums trying to invade our country, and then it'd be over with from that point forward. But that's what needs to happen. And I don't care who gets mad about it, and you can call me whatever name you want to. But ask Lake and Riley's family, and I bet you they would feel the same way.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I say we move the border wall back a mile and create a giant minefield. Anybody that doesn't come through the designated ports of entry, if you have a legitimate asylum claim, whether it goes through or not, you better go through a port of entry or pay a visit to a U.S. embassy. Otherwise, we plant that area with landmines, and the problem will solve itself. It'll only take a couple fools running through there, getting themselves blown up before that stops happening. If we've got a military actually monitoring the border, issue a warning, stop, turn around immediately, count down from 10. If they don't, well, sorry about your luck, fella. But yeah, something has to be done, both about securing the border and these cartels need to pay for what's happened to us over the last several years. They're the ones facilitating the smuggling. They're making billions and billions of dollars. Much of it's getting paid out through indirectly through the U.S. government, through some of these NGOs. But we also know like Chinese government and other places. I mean, they're literally putting up down in Panama. They have whole facilities for Chinese migrants to stay at on their journey up to the U.S. And again, these cartels are the ones that are indirectly facilitating a lot of this stuff. It's time to make them pay. And I think, sending a small group of special forces out there after them and then utilizing the drones is the ideal way to do it. That way it's not a large scale on the ground, boots on the ground invasion. Mexico will also be better off for this. I've lost track of how many of their politicians have been killed since their last election. I know it was 32 a while back. I feel like it's over 40 now. And then that'll also root out the corruption by eliminating all these funds coming in. And then some people that know what's going on won't be afraid to speak out anymore. Because in their condition in Mexico, I honestly don't blame the people that are afraid to speak out just because of how much control the cartels have and how dangerous it is.
I'll tell you another thing. We need to start holding the Mexican government accountable for this. And I'm not saying to invade them and conquer them. And maybe I'm just saying I'm not saying that. But like we should, stop trading with them, stop doing business with them if they're not going to prevent. I mean, they're obviously allowing these things to happen. These people are going the whole length of Mexico to get up to our border, and not a single person's even not attempting to stop them. I think that the Mexican government is allowing it to happen because they're paid off by the cartels who are making all this money smuggling these people. So we need to step in there and say, look, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but we're not going to trade with you anymore. We're going to go trade with somebody else, and you guys can be on your own down there. And if they can't take care of it, I don't know. I mean, something's got to happen here in terms of holding them accountable for allowing this to happen. I think Trump with the Remain in Mexico thing was pretty good there, and it seemed to be pretty effective. Go back to the Remain in Mexico policies under Trump, and so some policies such as that. But I think that is also another thing that's missing in this quest, if you will, to secure our border.
Well, we can completely crush Mexico's economy just by cutting off trade with them, even for a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So if they won't get their act together, well, I guess the price on your avocados might go up a little bit, and your fentanyl if you're buying that over the border. But we can eliminate the problem very quickly because we can weather a storm like that a lot better than they can. And even if it's only for a few months, you could basically just obliterate several legitimate industries within their country just by ending trade with Mexico. So if that's on the table, Canada is also very unhappy with Mexico. They think they're abusing the trade agreements that we have, NAFTA, and whatever trade agreement we are on now for North America. But anyway, so like bringing the hammer down on there is not that difficult. The incoming Trump administration is doing a fantastic job keeping the left freaking out on every possible sector. Republican senator introduces legislation to get rid of the Department of Education. Senator Mike Rounds said that local school boards and local education departments know what's best for their students, and he is exactly right. So, of course, the left's already freaking out because they're now saying, this is the Trump plan, which it is, since they've clearly stated we're getting rid of the Department of Education. But it's great to see some people in Congress finding their stones and getting on board with the agenda early.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see this brought to a vote because at the very least, if it don't pass, we'll put a lot of these bums on the record as to where they actually stand, because there's going to be a lot of Republicans who I think are going to surprise people who will vote against that. Now, that's if it even gets to a floor vote. What they'll usually do in these situations is they're going to throw it to some committee, and then the Senate Majority Leader Thune will tell the committee chairperson to not put it on the agenda, let the bill die in committee, don't bring it forward. And if you do that, then you're no longer going to be the chairman of that committee because I'm going to remove you from it. And so that it's just going to go there and sit there and die. But hopefully we can get some movement on this, get it out to a floor vote, and get these people on record. Hopefully it passes, but even if it don't, we will know where these people stand moving forward, and they can put their cards on the table, and we can start primarying everybody who supports this government agenda right now with these government schools, because it's not public schools, it's government schools. And that's what they're being used to literally indoctrinate. So like you got a small state like West Virginia, and in order to receive these federal funds for the education in West Virginia, and every state's the same way, then you have to push the agenda that the federal government is requiring you to push. That money, if they're going to be giving it to states, should be going to the states directly with no strings attached, and you guys do what you want to with it, not well, you have to push Drag Queen Story Hour and the LGBTQ and the DEI positions if you want this money. And that's exactly what they do. They dangle that carrot of money, hold it hostage. And that is why you see so many even red states and small rural communities that are unfortunately pushing this agenda in our schools. That's how they've been able to infiltrate every nook and cranny of every single school across the country, is through the Federal Department of Education. And that is why it's so important. And I think for the longevity of our country, I don't think it'd be the thing that would fix the country the quickest. But in terms of long-term health of our country, I think that is the single most important issue, is eliminating the Federal Department of Education.
Oh, agreed. Because you brought up something good, like the tying the funding to things. Like the reason so many schools, even in like rural areas where it certainly doesn't reflect the values of the local people, why they're allowing women in the men's room and vice versa, or putting in tampon dispensers or litter boxes or all the other just insane BS that we've heard about and we've reported on. They tie it to things like the school lunch funding. So they tied men and women's bathrooms and vice versa, and changing rooms, everything else. They tied that to the school lunch funding, who unfortunately, and again, like it shouldn't be this way, but a lot of schools have become dependent on that because that's that line item in their budget they just don't think about now because the federal government takes care of it. So they've spent the money elsewhere. All funds are, money's fungible. But when all of a sudden you take that away from them, they're in a position where they feel like they don't have a choice, that they don't have a way to make that up. The money's already been spent, and they're basically being held hostage by these just criminal lunatics in our federal government that want to indoctrinate kids and, continue on with the grooming. Well, the big colleges and universities are also in full-on panic mode right now. Woke colleges and universities panicked that Trump is going to take a wrecking ball to higher education. He's made this very clear in several of the statements that they want to go back, look at the agenda, look at what's being taught in these classes. They want actual accountability, entrances, exit exams. They want to make sure people are actually learning something. They want to get this anti-American DEI agenda out of the lesson plan. Colleges go back to what they're supposed to be doing, and that's educating American students, making them excellent in their field, but also instilling the pro-American values that will bind our country together.
Absolutely. Well, quick shout out to Jonathan Mosley in the Twitter chat. Appreciate you for tuning in. You're exactly correct, though. I mean, that's once again, these are liberal indoctrination camps. They're being used to take kids, and how many people do you know or have heard the story of they send their child off to college and they come back and they're like, I don't even recognize my child anymore. Like, they were not raised this way. This is what they think. And it's all through this liberal indoctrination. They're literally a liberal indoctrination camps. I went to college, and it was even trending that direction then. And I mean, I graduated in like over almost 12 years ago now from college. So that is exactly where they're trending towards right now. And it's very sad that this is happening, but we have to do that. If you want to, as a public university, if you're wanting to push your liberal agenda, you can become a private institution and you can do it on your own dime, and you're not going to accept federal tax dollars, and hopefully the states will do the same thing, tax dollars to do that. It's unbelievable this is happening. These universities have billions and billions of dollars in endowments as well to sustain themselves. And then here they are turning around, taking public tax dollars and then using that to indoctrinate the children against us. Here's the thing. The left does not have and produce children. They abort and murder most of their children. So the only way that the left can reproduce is if they indoctrinate our children. And that is why they've infiltrated all these public universities and even the school systems at the state and local level, is so that they can reproduce more left-wing extremists through the indoctrination of our own children.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, if we take that card away from them so they can't play it, they no longer have control over all of our kids, then their ability to control the agenda going forward is greatly diminished. And that should be our goal, not just because of our political beliefs, but because that's what's best for our nation, for our nation's future, and for the children. So eliminating their ability to go in and essentially mind control, corrupt all these kids early on, especially with the sexual perversion through all this LGBT QM element, QOP agenda, all the other DEI nonsense, teaching white students that everything's their fault, that they're the great oppressor, and if you're a woman or any kind of minority, that you're a victim, instilling this victim mentality within people that, again, turns them into losers. Taking that away from them will diminish their control greatly. If you're going to school just to learn how to think, to learn history, mathematics, how to read, instead of going in there to be programmed, we'll all be better off for it. And again, this is what we had. Our education system has become more and more corrupt over the last 100 years. But if you go back to the late 1800s through about 1910, where America had this giant economic boom, where we lifted so many people out of poverty and we really built things up, that's the kind of thing we need to get back to. Everything is focused on making America stronger, better, more intelligent, to build our next group of scientists and inventors. That's what we need. We don't need this DEI woke garbage crammed down everybody's throat. We don't need any more guilt for anything. We just need to focus on the future.
Absolutely. And I know we're almost out of time. I want to give a quick shout out to Dark Horse and over here in the Twitter chat. And then Marble cracked me up as funny. Marble said, I bet you learned more at Fed University than you did in undergrad from when I went to prison for January 6th. that's a good one. And it's absolutely true. And but that's also what we're talking about here is exactly why they're also trying to require a degree for literally everything. They want a degree for every single career out there so that they can force more people into these liberal indoctrination camps, because at the end of the day, realistically, most of the jobs out here that are requiring degrees right now do not need actual pieces, at least not a 4-year degree, maybe some training or whatever. I can see that, but they don't need 4 year of undergrad at a public university to go do some of these jobs that are requiring these degrees. But they're wanting to force more people into that liberal indoctrination camp so they can get their hands on them.
Yeah, that's really what it's about, is indoctrination. It isn't about getting people ready for the real world or their job or anything else. If anything, we've heard, well, I know, again, from personal experience, from the many years I spent in the staffing industry, you get college students all the time that are straight out of university with a degree in something specialized, and they're incapable of doing it, because instead they what they really learned in college was just whatever the Rainbow Mafia wanted to teach them. But guys, we're almost out of time here. I want to thank you for joining us. Encourage you guys, just have a good weekend out there this weekend. Stay safe. Please stay tuned to Patriot TV. The Hannah Faulkner Show is on next. Great person. Pick up her new book on Amazon. But guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we'll be back again on Monday with even more.